The Chief Justice raised his gavel to silence Denzel Washington. Then Denzel handed him something that made the judge break down in tears. He tried to jail Denzel Washington, but one letter made him question everything. Before we begin, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Because when a Supreme Court Chief Justice tries to jail Denzel Washington and ends up in tears, you'll want to see exactly how it happened. The courtroom was packed. Marble walls, federal flags, cameras rolling from the balcony. Chief Justice John Roberts sat tall, black robe crisp, voice cutting through the silence. "Mr. Washington," he said coldly, "you stand accused of inciting public disruption through unauthorized protests, media provocation, and failure to comply with judicial review orders." The audience murmured. Denzel stood slowly, calm, dark suit, clean white shirt, no tie, just purpose. He didn't interrupt. Roberts leaned forward. "Do you have anything to say in your defense before I proceed?" Denzel reached down and pulled out a small, unlabeled envelope, then looked up. "I don't have a defense, Your Honor." Roberts raised an eyebrow. Denzel continued, "I have something better." He handed the envelope to the bailiff, who passed it to the bench. Roberts opened it. Inside, a USB drive. One label, handwritten, "Play me." The entire courtroom went still. Roberts narrowed his eyes, fingers hovering over the courtroom screen controller. But what was on that drive? And would it challenge everything the Chief Justice thought he knew? The courtroom lights dimmed slightly as the screen flickered on. Roberts inserted the USB. A file popped up. June 12 Community Center MP4. He hit play. The footage began. Denzel stood in a crowded community center, speaking softly to a room full of teenagers, teachers, and single mothers. No protest, no anger. Just one voice saying, "We don't change the system by burning it down. We change it by standing so tall, it has to shift around us." Gasps in the courtroom. Roberts froze. The screen cut to surveillance footage from outside the same event. Officers entering. No warning. Tear gas fired. A mother shielding her child. Roberts paused the video. Silence. Denzel looked straight ahead. No smugness, no defiance, just truth. Roberts cleared his throat. "Do you have an explanation for how this footage contradicts sworn statements submitted to this court?" Denzel nodded. "It's not my explanation that matters, Your Honor. It's the fact that no one in power ever asked for one." A law clerk dropped her pen. Someone in the gallery wiped a tear. Roberts glanced back at the paused video, the frame frozen on a teenage boy coughing behind his grandmother. But was the video enough to change the law? Or just to shake the conscience of the man behind the bench? The video stopped, but the room stayed frozen in that same frame of silence. Denzel reached into his briefcase, not for another file, but a worn leather pouch. He opened it slowly and placed a stack of handwritten letters on the defense table. "These," he said softly, "are from the people who were there that day. Kids, teachers, grandmothers. Not one of them was allowed to testify." He looked at Roberts. "So I brought their voices here. Since the courtroom wouldn't let them in, I will." He selected the top letter and slid it toward the bailiff. "Read it, please." The bailiff hesitated, then unfolded the paper. "Dear Judge, my name is Malik. I'm 13. I was there with my mom. Mr. Washington didn't tell us to fight. He told us we were already strong." The reader's voice cracked. The audience stayed silent. Denzel laid out more letters, one by one, from a single mother who lost her job after the raid, From a teacher who shielded students in the chaos. From a grandmother who said he spoke peace while they brought war. Roberts didn't speak. His hands trembled slightly as he reached for one letter and read silently. Then again. He looked up at Denzel, and for the first time, his eyes were no longer sharp. They were glass. But would emotion lead to action? Or would the system still protect itself before protecting its people? The room wasn't silent anymore. It was still, heavy. Roberts sat with the last letter clutched gently between his fingers. The parchment slightly creased, his robe unusually loose at the collar. He looked at Denzel. "You could have walked away," he said quietly. Denzel nodded. "I almost did." Robert's voice cracked slightly. "Why didn't you?" Denzel paused. "Because they don't have microphones. And I do." He stepped forward, not aggressively, not triumphantly, just real. "I'm not asking you to save me, Your Honor," he said. "I'm asking you to listen, not to me, to them." He gestured toward the letters still lying on the table. Roberts leaned back, staring at the courtroom ceiling for just a moment, as if searching for something older than precedent. Then he reached for his gavel, but he didn't strike it. He held it mid-air, then slowly placed it down. "I'm calling a recess," he said, voice low. "And I'm requesting an internal judicial review of this entire prosecution." Gasps. The prosecutor stood up in protest, but Roberts raised a hand. "This courtroom doesn't silence truth, not today." The crowd erupted into applause, not wild, not political, just human. But was this a crack in the wall, or the first blow to a system finally beginning to shift? 2 days later, the clip of Roberts lowering his gavel and not using it hit 48 million views. Hashtags flooded every feed. Had Denzel v. System. Let them speak. Justice did listen. News anchors argued about what it meant. Was Roberts softening? Was the system actually bending? But Denzel Washington wasn't on a news show. He was back in that same community center, same folding chairs, same people, no cameras, just him, reading one of the letters aloud. This time, to the kids who wrote it. "I didn't change the court," he said. "I reminded it that you exist." Meanwhile, inside the Supreme Court's private chambers, Roberts sat at his desk, still in full robe. In front of him sat one thing, a single sheet of paper, drafted, unsigned. It read, "Order to dismiss for insufficient ethical grounds." His pen hovered above the line. He didn't sign it. Yet. Outside, protesters marched not in anger, but in unity. Teachers, teenagers, lawyers, artists, grandmothers, some holding candles, others holding up signs. Silence is broken. But would this spark become a fire? Or would it be buried under the next storm of headlines? 3 months later, a small amendment quietly passed through Judicial Committee. No headlines, no press conference, just new language added to an old rule book. Community testimony shall not be dismissed solely due to procedural technicality. The author? Anonymous, but court insiders knew who typed it. Chief Justice John Roberts hadn't spoken publicly since the hearing, but he no longer interrupted review panels when community advocates testified. He just listened. And Denzel, he never stepped back on that courtroom floor. Instead, he launched a scholarship in Malik's name, the 13-year-old who wrote the first letter, for voices uninvited into the room until they build their own. One student wore the new scholarship hoodie on campus, Truth wears no robe. In a quiet corner of the Supreme Court archive, tucked between files, rested an envelope, worn at the edges. It held all the letters Denzel had brought, still unopened by clerks, but untouched by order. In his office, Roberts sometimes looked at it, not with guilt, with gravity. Now it's your turn. When the law speaks, will you listen blindly or ask what it's forgotten to hear? Drop your voice in the comments. Like, subscribe, and share if you believe true justice begins when we finally listen to the quietest voices.